So optimizing your resume and CV for the ATS. So according to JobScan, about 99% of all Fortune 500 companies use an ATS, and outside of the Fortune 500, a lot of other companies do as well. And according to these guys, about 75% of all resumes are rejected. Well, that's a lot of resumes. So I want to talk about how you can optimize your resume and CV for the ATS so you get invited in for an interview. And so in this video, I'm going to be discussing why you need to optimize. This will give you a good baseline for your future resumes and how you can optimize your resume. I'm going to be discussing 7 different methods of doing this, and lastly, I'll give you some other ATS resume tips. I'm Professor Job Offer, and I've spent the last 10 years with a number of Forbes Global 2000 companies, and I've helped people land interviews and offers at companies like this, and I'm here to share with you my tips and tricks on landing your next job offer. So kicking off with why you need to optimize. Well, couple different reasons. I want to start off by comparing the ATS, the Applicant Tracking System, to your digest system. And each has its own features and capacity in terms of what it's capable of handling and what it can do. And kind of furthering our thoughts in that, let's say an individual has dairy allergy, so this means they're unable to properly process dairy, like milk, cheese, and so on. And just like the human body, ATS is also only able to process or digest certain documents. Why? Well, that's how it's programmed. That's its features and capacity, which means that certain file formats and certain fonts, they will be able to digest and will be able to process, and some they will not be able to. And that's what you need to be mindful of. And if it cannot process, well, it's not going to pass. So important thing to remember here is to feed the ATS what it can digest. So that's rule number 1. Secondly, why do you need to optimize? Well, I'm going to give you another comparison. ATS is like you, okay? You have certain preferences and needs. Same thing with the companies, which is why they upload their job posting, their job description in order to find the best candidate for the position, right? So let's say there's some ice cream. You have 3 different flavors. You got chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry. For your needs or for your preference, you like the chocolate ice cream either because of the flavor or for whatever reason it may be. Now, same thing with a company. Company needs chocolate ice cream. They don't need vanilla or strawberry. And that's what they're going to apply into the ATS. So the ATS or the company will only really entertain, and they will only take interest in what they're looking for, only in the features in terms of the skills, experience, and competencies that they're looking for. And that's what's important here. You need to understand what the company's needing, what the ATS wants to see, what their preferences are, what they want to see on your resume. And going back to what kind of skills, experiences you need to appeal on there. And if you don't have the skills and experiences they're looking for, well, they're not going to pass. It's like, oh, hey, like we're looking for ice cream, but you have all these donuts. They don't care. Okay. So feed the ATS what it needs, what the company needs, what the company wants to see. So in quick summary, because this was a big section, well, you need to focus on the features and capacity of the ATS. What can it handle? What can it process? Secondly, the preferences and needs of the company to demonstrate that you have those skills and experiences that the company is looking for, so you don't get rejected like the rest of the 75% of the people. So let's take a look at how you can optimize your resume. So starting with feeding the ATS what it can digest, kind of going back to this idea. So instead of telling you what it can digest, I'm going to show you what it cannot digest. So if you have any of these elements, just get them off your resume immediately. Well, first and foremost, images and graphics. Well, it's meant to scan for words. And if you have images and graphics on there, well, it's not going to scan very well, and it's not going to be able to digest and process. So, but if you happen to have a portfolio because you either have a design background or you want to show, you want to demonstrate all your achievements, and you put images on there, well, what you do is you just put a link to a website or a web page where the hiring manager can view your portfolio and what you've achieved instead of putting it right on your resume. Second thing it cannot digest would be certain fonts, especially like the newer fonts or the downloaded fonts. And if you're wondering what are some of the best fonts to use for your resume, I have a whole video discussing some of like top 5 best and worst fonts for your resume and CV with some examples. A third element the ATS is unable to digest are certain file formats. Well, let me show you an example. Let's say you spend like 10, 12, 20 hours building this colorful, very, how should I say, creative resumes. We sometimes call them the infographic resumes as well. And, maybe you use like a PowerPoint to do it, or you use like a Photoshop because you have skills in that. And let's say you go ahead and apply to Netflix, right? I know immediately you're going to be rejected, or you're not even going to be able to submit your resume. Why? As you can see here, Netflix only wants resumes in PDF or Word doc or docx or text file. So if you want to submit something on PPTX extension or the Photoshop extension, it's not going to accept that. And that brings us to the fourth element the ATS is unable to adjust is unclear section headings. I'm not going to discuss this in too much detail, but your ATS goes through a process called the resume parsing. And if you don't have clear section headings for your resume, ATS is going to have a hard time and not be able to process it. Remember, you can't process, you don't pass. And if you're wondering about what are the major sections that you need on your resume, I talk about the 5+1 sections in a quick 5-minute video. So we'll take a look at that. And that brings us to the next part in terms of how do you optimize. Remember, I talked about the preferences and needs of the company, and you need to feed the ATS what it needs. So you need to demonstrate to the company that you have the skills and experiences that the company is looking for, right? And I showed you with an ice cream example. So first and foremost, the company's needs, well, it's right there. They tell you what are the job requirements, what are the qualifications, what is Apple looking for? Well, they want people that have strong people skills and knack for problem solving. They want someone who's has ability to maintain composure and customer focus and so on. What about Google? What is Google looking for in this position? Well, they want someone who's pursuing a bachelor's or master's degree in quantitative field in these areas. So if you are doing that, or if you do meet this criteria, you still need to emphasize that. You still need to note that on your resume. Otherwise, the company's not going to know. And that's how you optimize. Secondly, meeting the company's needs. No, they're going to highlight some skills, experiences, knowledge in terms of what they're looking for in a successful candidate. And what you need to do here, you need to use keywords from those skills, experiences, or from the job posting, and you need to use this in context. That's very important, which is why I highlighted it in green. And you might be wondering, okay, how do I do that? How do I pick out the keywords and how do I use this in context? Well, I have just a video for that. So in the part 1 video, I discussed the method in terms of how you pick out the keywords from the job posting, and part 2 discusses the application of it. Okay, now I have all these keywords. How do I apply that with my skills and experiences? And I discussed that. And this may be one of the most important videos in terms of when you're creating your resume. So you can go refer to that. And the third one, in terms of meeting the company's needs, like appealing your skills, experiences, and knowledge. It sounds very simple, but it's the spelling and grammar. I'm just going to illustrate with an example here. Look, company is looking for someone that has skills and experience in marketing, right? And then through the ATS, they're going to get this ranking of all the people. And they found that Helen, Kyle, Bruce, and Andrew have one of the higher rankings of people with experience in marketing. But because you forgot the T in marketing, or you have a typo in there, you don't rank on there. And only these people get the interview, and you don't. Why? Because of a spelling mistake. And a grammar can also come in conflict as well when they're actually reading your resume in person. So, and that brings us to the last part, which is the other ATS resume tips. These are some newer and more recent videos. So if you're wondering about how to use action verbs or what action verbs you need to have on your resume, I discussed some of the must-have action verbs that you'll need with some examples. And if you're wondering like, okay, well, I want to format my resume, or I don't like the format of it, you want to change the format of it, or if you don't know where to start, well, here, I show you how to go from a blank page to this formatting in 5 minutes using Microsoft Word, so you can just kind of follow along. And if you think you're clever enough to cheat the ATS, the Applicant Tracking System, oh, this is what some people have done, and I'm telling you this is what not to do. So you can go take a look at that if you. It's a fun little video. So quick recap: why you need to optimize. Starting with that, remember I talked about the features and capacity of the ATS, what it can handle and what it cannot handle. Right, that's why you need to optimize. And preferences and needs, you need to show and demonstrate that you have the skills and experience knowledge that the company is looking for, so you don't get rejected like the 75% of the people. Next, the how to optimize. I discussed the 7 different things in terms of 4 different things that the ATS cannot digest, and how 3 ways you can meet the company's needs. And lastly, also just kind of mentioning other ATS or resume tip videos. And if you want to know more about the applicant tracking system, I have a whole video on that one as well. Well, I'm Professor Job Offer, and yeah, have fun with it. Thanks for watching.